What I think happened is I learned this after the fact, but when we had meetings after, when Parler had meetings after it was deplatformed and was discussing whether there were anything that they could take legal actions against. So there were calls with an attorney that Rebecca Mercer hired, and we were all on the phone with calls and all discussing all the communications. And I learned in one of those calls that someone from Amazon made contact with John Mates, the founder of Parler, as John described in these calls. And basically, this person from Amazon, this was like 2 or 3 days before Amazon annihilated Parler. They asked John Mates if Trump was coming onto Parler. So John, from what I recall, John said yes, Trump was coming onto Parler, and that he expected like 20, 25 million more, users, more accounts, which basically would have a little more than doubled the size of Parler to join Parler. So I think they were fishing. This is right after Trump got removed from every other platform. So I, in my opinion, and again, this is a speculation, the target was Trump.
Right.
At that point in time, they didn't want Trump to have another platform, and Parler was the most downloaded app in the world. They wanted to stop Trump, in my opinion, and so they wanted to make sure Trump did not have a voice. And the best place for him to have a voice would have been Parler, because Parler had the capacity for scaling, and I think that they wanted to prevent that.
Yeah.
So I that's so I don't
It's
think
not.
necessarily the fear was Parler. I think the fear was Trump being
Yeah.
able to have a platform that large to continue
Yeah.
to express his opinions.
It's not a far-fetched assumption. We have video recording of Biden saying if Trump runs again, we're going to do everything we can to stop him. And now he has like 80 indictments. So we can see where that's headed. But I appreciate you setting that up for us. When for everybody not really tuned in, when that happened, and to the point of the story, then Amazon basically kicked it out. The App Store kicked it out. Amazon server shut it down. And that leads us back to the topic that I really wanted to talk about, which was, so in 2016, you saw Trump win in and you go, oh, shoot, this is the end of free speech. And you had written some articles and you had talked about how our system has a trust deficit.
Yes.
And there's distrust in media and partisan politics. And so I think this all ties in the way that I'm seeing it, because they need to control the narrative and they want us to trust them. But the internet has created a way where we can get all the information, and now it creates distrust. What were you talking about when you're talking about the system having a trust deficit?
I think you have. I've argued for a long time that there's no such thing as a trusted third party. So given the fact that I think that you have no such thing as a trusted third party, because to the extent that we delegate, anoint, or legislate trusted third parties, then the interest of that trusted third party is to preserve its monopoly status as a trusted third party. So, and they get that mostly by force, not by being transparent, in a way that would further make people trust. So, for me, I think the only opportunity we have in building a society is with trustless technology and peer-to-peer relationships. I think that, and to the extent that if we are going to have gatekeepers, that there's choice, that people can choose their gatekeeper rather having those gatekeepers chosen for them. So anyone, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So to the extent that once you have a gatekeeper, typically, like most people, when they have positions of authority, they get co-opted by some special interest, and they begin to represent that special interest. Mm-hmm. So to expect any person to remain neutral, okay, the only way to have neutrality is through competition, not regulation, is through choice, is giving people options. So the only way we'll have neutrality is decisions made voluntarily in the marketplace, not through coercion and force, which means that we have to eliminate friction wherever exists. So we have to be able to create these platforms that are that eliminate friction. And I think as the more we eliminate friction, the more we will enhance trust. And obviously, those people who are in the business of mediating trust through them do not want to see, that model evolve, because that's a great threat to them, and they want to preserve, the perks of 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 the privileges that they currently enjoy.
Right.
So, to the extent that they have to convince everyone, in the absence of a gatekeeper, there's chaos. To fear the absence of a gatekeeper, that the gatekeeper is the adult in the room, and that we're going to be in a Hobbesian state of war, man against man, woman against woman, person against person, in a constant state of war, and the only thing that prevents that are the gatekeepers. So that's how they have to demonize, anyone who challenges the gatekeeper model, is they have to sell fear, and the consequences of their not being gatekeepers. And so I think that I do not, and given the fact that we now have, greater access to information, it's easier for us to learn the number of ways why we can't trust and shouldn't trust the people who tell us we should trust them.
Right. Well, we have these trusted third parties. We have the central bank managing our money. Of course, we have no transparency, and they've proven time and time again we can't trust them. We have Facebook, trusted third party, but again, steals our data, mismanages. We see that. We have Wells Fargo, and they're constantly putting fake bank accounts on there. So over and over and over, we see, to your point, these trusted third parties violate that trust. And so we find out over and over again, and it's easy if you just understand that human nature, to the point that you're making, is always going to want to take control, maintain that power, and then so thereby they start to violate that trust. You talked about how really, like, the way that the United States and the Constitution was set up was a way so that we didn't have to trust, or it prevented these big trusted third parties from being formed in sort of this decentralized, trustless manner where you had like these checks and balances.
Yes, and checks and balances that to a great extent, the Supreme Court, which was supposed to be the least dangerous branch, that might be the most dangerous branch, has eroded, most of our inalienable rights. You now have people going to the courts that will not overtly acknowledge that we even have and possess inalienable rights. And so, if we get people who challenge the concept that we don't have inalienable rights, then that's the most fundamental thing, in the Constitution, is our property rights and our inalienable rights. James Madison said we have rights in our property and property in our rights. So I think that's a very, very important concept, because our rights are also our property. So and we're told that there's a takings clause that says the only time, a right can be taken away from us is if it serves some public utility and we're compensated for it. So most of the rights are being stripped from us, that are not stripped for any sense of public utility, and we're not getting compensated for it, because there's the forgetting of the concept that our rights are also our property. So they're inseparable, they're inviolable from us.